Hey, it's Matt from Testfully, and in this video, I'm going to take you through Testfully's agent skills. And to make sure that we are on the same page, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to skills and how your coding agents can take advantage of those skills. So, skills is a open protocol, and so you can come to the agentskills.io to learn about it. But in summary, it's a standardized way to give AI agents new capabilities and expertise. We both know that AI agents, the coding agents, are connected to these LLMs, and the LLM provides the knowledge, and then the AI agent will use that one to do jobs. In a lot of scenarios, we come across situations where that LLM doesn't have the insights or the knowledge or updated knowledge, even in some scenarios, about um, the thing that we want it to do. So let me give you an example of it. Let's say, and you have your source code, and you are using a coding agent to do your coding. So the coding agents, you tell coding agents to, if this is, you tell coding agent that, for example, go write unit tests for this particular class that I have implemented. And the coding agent will use all of its power to figure out how those unit tests needs to be written. And that would work, and largely it's going to rely on the LLM that it is using to figure out what sort of style of unit testing it should go. It can also learn from your source code as well, but it will use a combination of both of those scenarios to do the job. What you can do instead is that to have a dedicated skill for example, TDD. So I can create a TDD skill, and when it's time to do unit testing, you can tell your coding agent that I want you to write unit tests using this particular skill. And that way, you know that the coding agent is not going to look for different ways. It's going to focus on using that particular skills, and you can use that skill to educate your coding agent that how you want the unit test to be written, what needs to be followed, and what shouldn't be followed. So there are a bunch of skills out there, and Versal has a project called Skills, which if you come to skills .sh, you will see that there's an ecosystem of these skills that you can explore, you can find, and download them and start using them. So that's what skills are. And a bunch of open source contributors also have created their own skills. For example, Matt Pocock has plenty of skills, and this repository has already 82,000 stars. It's quite popular. There are lots of skills you can see for engineering. He does have, in fact, a dedicated skill for TDD, and here he explains that how he wants the TDD to be done. So you can go ahead and install this skill and give it a try and see how your unit testing will be changed if you instruct your coding agent to use this particular skill. So on that front, Testfully also comes with a few skills, and we have created these skills to help coding agents and you to take advantage of various features and concepts that we have in Testfully to use the product in your agentic software development workflow. So we put all of our skills in a public and open source repository called Agent Skills. So if you search github.com/testfully/agent skills, you will come to our skill repository. Here, right now, we got three skills that we have created internally. And so we are in charge of maintaining those skills. And every time that we introduce new features or anything that the skill requires an update, we just go ahead and update the skill to have those updated knowledge as well. So there are three skills right now available for you to use. And I'm going to take you through all of them and give you a demo of how you can use them in your workflow. So the first skill is the TFML, Testfully Markup Language. As you know, we have recently introduced this file format called Testfully Markup Language, which I have recorded a video for it as well. And TFML is a file format that allows humans, coding agents, and computers in general to be able to communicate with Testfully as a platform. So it's a file format that is based on TOML. You can define your requests, collections, environments, any set of data that you store in your Testfully workspace can be represented as a TFML file. So, and this skills educates your coding agent to how to create those files. So it won't end up doing hallucination and creating things that doesn't work. The skill is so detailed and comes with plenty of examples that helps the coding agent understand the structure and use that one to create collections. Testfully script is another skill that allows coding agents and humans to write scripts for before request and after response phases of a request using the APIs that we offer for Testfully. So again, rather than doing hallucination and throwing using APIs that may not be available in Testfully, you can just point out to this particular skill, which contains documentation for all of the APIs that we have, how you can use them, and examples that can help coding agent to get the job done using the right API. Last but not least, we know that how coding agents love CLI tools. They run them constantly, trying to get the work done using those command line tools. And Testfully CLI skill allows coding agents to understand how you can use Testfully CLI, what arguments are supported, and how they can take advantage of those things. And which I'm going to show you all of these skills in a quick demo. So how do you install the skills? Skills are basically markdown files. So you can come to the agent skills overview, and usually you place them under .agent/skills. And most of coding agents understand this directory, this structure in your project, and they pick up the skills automatically. Some coding agents, they don't follow this pattern. They have their own structure which you can follow. There is an easier way for installing the skills, and that's using the skills command line tool. So you can use it using npx skills, or you can install it as a global package and then use it in your terminal. So what I'm going to now is that I'm going to go to one of these directories, create an empty directory, and I will show you how to install skills. So if I come to Vercel's documentation, you can see that you can download skills from a Git repository. So I'm going to use this command. Let me just copy our repository and come here. What we can do is skills. I've just run skills because I have already installed this one globally. Yeah, that's there. So it's skills and this one. So it's going to ask me a bunch of questions. First is that which of the skills do you want to install? So I just want to install all of the skills because I'm going to use that one for my demo. And so it says that what kind of configuration do you want to have? Because I'm going to use Codex, and Codex already understands the standard .agents/skills. That's good. I don't need to select any other agent. So I will just press enter. And it's asking me that if I wanted to install this skill globally or for my project. It's a personal choice, but I would prefer to have everything locally, because if I am sharing this repository with my colleague and they clone the repository, they can have the skills out of the box, but also it will be very deterministic when every project has a pinned version of the skill. So I'm just going to select project here, and it's going to ask me that are you happy for me to install this stuff? It did a bit of a security risk assessment as well. There is nothing really, it's just a bunch of markdown files. So I click yes, and you can see that it went and downloaded a bunch of stuff. So if I look at this one, I have the agents folder. If I do SLA agents skills, you can see all of these are already available, and it's basically a bunch of markdown files. Cool. So what I'm going to do to start our demo, I will just do a git init as well, and I will add files. Cool. You can see all of this basically skill markdown files are clocked. Good, good. What I want to do now to start the demo is that I want to ask my coding agent. So I'm going to use Codex in this case, but it's going to be same for any other coding agent. I'm going to ask Codex to create a collection of requests using TFML for Rick and Morty API. So for the Rick and Morty API, we just come to the Rick and Morty API and go to the documentation. Well, that's the documentation. I will just grab that one and I will just open Codex. Now I am good to start using the skills. So if I press $sign and then do, for example, testfully, you can see that I've got testfully CLI and testfully script installed already as a skill. And for TFML, if I search TFML, it's available. So what I'm going to prompt now is that you are tasked to create a TFML workspace for Return Multi API using the TFML skill to understand with the API endpoints. Check. Very simple, right? I'm just mentioning the TFML skill because that's the skill that I want Codex to use to create these TFML files. If I don't provide TFML, Codex will still try to understand if there is any skill that is available, and if it is available, it will pick that one up. And if I didn't have the skill, um, Codex would still do some stuff. I'm sure that it would do some search, tries to basically do the best that is available to just get some information and just do the job. But for now, because we do have the skills, we're gonna provide them. So let's watch what's happening with Codex and observe the behavior. You can see that it read the skills.md file for the TFML skill. So to understand that what kind of a skill is that one and learn from that skill. You can see that it's opening all of those files because you will need those insights to know that how that workspace needs to be provisioned. And we can see that it's searching the web for Rick and Morty documentation because obviously there is nothing local or in my skills to, for Codex to sort of figure out the documentation for Rick and Morty. So let's wait for that one to finish as well. All right, it's getting some insights, and I can see that creating some directory, adding the TFML files now. Cool. So Rick and Morty has both REST and GraphQL API, and we're going to see how Codex figure out how to create a request file that sends a request to a GraphQL API versus request files for sending requests to a few REST endpoints. While it's doing the job, I'm going to open a new window. I'm going to open this one in Visual Studio Code. Cool. You can see that it's started creating some of these files for us. And quite interestingly, it created the files. It needs to validate that these files are actually okay. And it's using Testfully CLI skill without us telling it to run those basically requests, which is fascinating. And you can see that it figured out how to basically provide these options by looking at the skill that we have documented. So yeah, it's going for 3 minutes, and so far it's good, still working, and we're gonna wait here. That's it. So it says that the workspace is created, and it's good to go. And you can just run this one. And it actually ran testfully run command passing the collection, and you can see that it executed 18 requests and 36 assertion passed, which is very nice. So if you look at VS Code, you can see that it nicely documented everything, and the characters, all of these requests are actually valid. So what we can do is that to make sure that everything is good, I can go say testfully run. You know what? I will just let me just copy this guy and just run it here, right? Cool. Voila. All of the requests are running now. So let's have a look. What has done? So it did create requests. We can see that for filtering characters, it's sending the request to this URL, and it's using some query parameter syntax, which is very neat, and it's using some variables. Where does it get these variables? I think in the globals, yeah, you have the globals here. So it defined variables for each of those sort of parameters, and then it's using that one. And there is no problem whatsoever in this collection because it just figured out everything using those skills, and the skills are valid. So it's very unlikely that there's any problem. What is nice is that it went ahead and used our no-code validation to create some unit tests without writing code. So the next thing that I wanted to ask is that you are currently using the validation style, not validation, to validate the response code. And instead, I want you to use Testfully script skill and do TDD using JavaScript. I wanted to write actually test cases for all of the requests within this collection rather than using the no code. And now I'm mentioning the testfully script skill. So let's see what happens there. You can see that it has this validation here. So it should get rid of this one and start writing scripts for validation. You can see that it's exploring testing assertions, response, and other things because it's just collecting the knowledge that it needs, to be able to do the task. Very nicely, it figured out that it's supposed test, expect, post response. So it's just basically on the right direction. It's not making any mistakes so far. All right, it started basically refactoring test cases, a request, and using JavaScript for unit testing rather than using the no-code validation. And you can see that it's using Testfully's API and a whole bunch of other things, and the insights that it collected from Testfully CLI when it ran these requests to generate test cases. Right, now you can see that again it ran and all of the test cases are passing. I would like to run this one by myself. And you can see that the test cases are more and they are having a better descriptions, and it's pretty neat in my opinion. So let's go ahead and what can we ask? So maybe we ask to write a test case using no code validation to make sure that the response code is below 2000 milliseconds. Okay, using no code validation, add a test that checks the response times less than 2000 ms. The validation is now back. So it used the knowledge from the skill to create that validation. From what I can see, it has not made any mistakes so far. It didn't hallucinate and it didn't make up things that doesn't exist in Testfully. Cool. That's good. I am going to run this one more time. And I can see that response was under the limit of 2000 milliseconds. So what else we can ask? Let's just ask another tricky questions. For example, well, I can see that there are assertions. For example, here we have an assertion that the response time is 10,000 milliseconds, whereas we want it to be 2000 milliseconds. So I'm going to ask you to remove assertions that are related to response time in JavaScript, but also update the test descriptions. Code. And we know that the coding agents are really good at this stuff. This is some basic stuff that we are asking our coding agent. Doesn't have to do with Testfully now. It's just going to do a cleanup for us. Perfect. So that's how we can use skills, the three skills that we got right now to sort of guide our coding agents to the direction that we want. And that's not the only way to use these skills for doing actually something. You can also use it to provide some context to your coding agent and then use that one to just have a conversation about those capabilities. So I'm going to wait for this one to finish now, and I will show you using a new session that how to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open a new session here. Let me just clear the screen. Cool. So let me say using the TFML and knowledge, tell me how I can create a GET request to M. Yeah, that makes sense, right? It just answers my questions. So I can say, do I need to provide the method field or is get the default value? Get is the default value. Okay, let me ask another question. And can I skip the name and rely on file name or name of my request? Okay, let's just ask another tricky thing. Use Testfully CLI skill and to send the about request with HTTP API, then give me the response. I'm recording the video, so mask anything sensitive in the response body, such as IP address. Excuse my typos. So let's see what it does. So I'm asking to basically send that request using Testfully CLI, get the response, and tell me what was the response. It did send a request originally. It made a mistake, figured out the mistake using the skill as well as a few other files that were there, fixed that one, and it continued with the retry, finally got the response and showed it to me. What's very, uh, I guess, fascinating for me here is that it figured out what argument it needs to pass to testfully run command to get the exact response, because by default we don't actually emit the response body because it's unnecessary, but we have the option, and the option is documented in the skill, and it used that skill to do that basically response, and it's removed all of the sensitive information, and that's basically the response that we have. So to put it into the practice, what can we do with these testfully skills? One of the things that you can do is obviously writing integration tests, end-to-end tests, smoke tests, any kind of test that you can do with testfully. You can use the skills to provision those test cases using TFML, because TFML is supported in our testfully CLI, and you can run that one. Another cool thing that you can do is that it's your onboarding. If you have an API and you want to just start using that API, just ask your coding agent to provision a collection using TFML skill, and just point out to Open API specification for that API, or even any documentation. It should be able to just explore the documentation and create those workspaces for you. And another cool thing that I really like about it is that when I'm building APIs, when, for example, we're working on our GraphQL API right now and we're doing a few query fields, what I do is that I provided this skill to Codex, and I ask Codex that every time that you are working on something, just go create a collection, and then use that one to send a request in a different payloads to the query field to see that what kind of behavior you receive. So we use Testfully CLI and TFML as a tool for interacting with our APIs during development using coding agents. So that's also another thing that you can do. And the last thing that obviously you can do is that to just ask your coding agent questions about Testfully. For example, let me just ask something interesting. Is that what Postman APIs Testfully support? I have a request that it got some script using Postman API. Can I use it without change in Testfully? If no, what should I be doing? It's just a generic question that comes about testfully scripting. So let's see what it figures out. Here you go. It just picks up the testfully script automatically because it knows that that's the skill that actually can answer the question. Let's see what kind of answer it gives me. That's pretty cool. Testfully supports a practical subset of Postman scripting API. I like the way it was phrased. Mainly the common request response variables, assertions, and runner APIs. Here is all of the supported APIs. We support some older Postman APIs and also a few other things. And that's another way to use coding agent. You can ask questions about Testfully, and if you have any questions, you can just help you. And also, it can help you with debugging. If your Testfully scripts are not working, the best way is to just give it to your coding agent and ask to debug it for you using Testfully CLI. I hope you found this one useful, and just give a star in GitHub for our repository and try to play with the skills. And we are going to come back later with more skills and more videos about how you can use Testfully in your new wave of software development using coding agents.